Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I thought I'd just talk through all the books I've read so far this year. I know we're only in March, but that's a quarter of the way through the year, so I thought this would be a good time to just have a check-in and reflect on what I've read. So if you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I decided this year not to set myself a reading challenge. Last year I think I read 68 books, and even though it was nice to have that challenge, I felt like sometimes I was reading for the sake of it, or just reading small books to like tick it off as a goal rather than actually just like reading what I fancied reading, or like reading at a slower pace and just like taking in everything I was reading. So this year there's no goal, I'm just reading what I want at the pace that I want. I'm putting no pressure on reading, you know, if I fancy putting the TV on, or if I've got a life, which I definitely do, when I'm out doing activities or seeing friends or family, like it's okay, it's good to have a social life, it's good to get out and about, because as much as I love reading, it's not everything. Whereas last year I think I used to think like I don't want to go out, like I just want to get this book read to meet the goal. So this year there's no goals. That being said, I'm still enjoying reading, so I have already read quite a few this year. I'm on 13 books so far, but again there's no goal. I'll always count how many books I've read, because you know it's still nice to see how many I've read. So yeah, so I've read 13 books so far. I'm on my 14th book now, and I just thought I'd talk you through them, rate them a bit, tell you what I liked, what I didn't, and then yeah, there might be some books on there that you fancy reading yourself, so let's get into it. Started the year off with what I thought would be a really good book. It's called The Blood of Hercules. I'd seen it a lot on TikTok, very like trending at the moment on booktok. I did Greek mythology at uni, if I haven't said before, which I do think I have, so I was really excited to read this book because anything to give me nostalgia for my 19-year-old self, and I'm in. Unfortunately, I think I gave this book a 2.75 stars. It had so much potential, like I loved the idea of the plot, however, I just didn't enjoy it. Like I felt like it was written specifically to tick off certain like booktok tropes we all love, like who did this to you, like enemy to lovers, which I would say is my favourite book trope, but it just wasn't done as well as I've read it in other books. So like even though the plot was kind of there, so I think they're like their descendants. I read it right at the start of Jan, so I can't quite remember, but like the characters in it, like they've got the different houses, so like House Atreus, House Aphrodite, can't remember the other two, and then like the people in them, there's like a competition, and like it's whoever kind of comes triumphant at the end, and they're like descendant from different gods, which I love that element of it. But then the enemy to lovers element, and there was a bit of a love triangle, which again, I'm so into love triangles at the moment, please give me some love triangle recs below, but it wasn't done enough. I think the book was maybe 300 pages, it was quite a small one, and like there just wasn't the tension and development I needed to really eat up and enjoy it. Like I read it quite quickly, it was really easy to get through, but for me to have enjoyed it more, I wanted that angst, I wanted that tension. So January didn't start off with the best book, however I would still recommend it. It wasn't terrible. For me, I just wanted a little bit more from the plot, but what can you do? And then in prep for Onyx Storm coming out, I reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I love Fourth Wing. I don't think I could ever say anything bad about Fourth Wing. Like the world building in Fourth Wing and everything is just, I love it. I did an Onyx Storm review to start this channel off, so if you've read it, go and check out my Onyx Storm review as well. Fourth Wing, I've got nothing bad to say about it. Iron Flame, on the reread, I was kind of, by the end of it, ready for the book to end. That last battle scene at the end of Iron Flame, it was just really hard for me to get through. I remember like counting the minutes until it ended. So on the second round I didn't enjoy Iron Flame as much. For those who might not have read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and don't know what the book's about, essentially there's like a war college that you have to like kind of apply to get into. Like there's a challenge at the start, and if you don't cross the parapet, I'm not sure if that's how you say it, then you essentially die and you don't make it into the war college, and then you have to go through different trials and different combats, and then in your first year at the college, if you're successful, will bond with the dragon. So they're essentially dragon riders, which is pretty cool. And then there's, you know, they've got villains, and the villains are called Venin, and they're kind of the bad guys in the story. So yeah, it's like a romantasy, enemy to lovers, you know, a bit of forbidden romance. It's really good. it like hits all the fantasy things that you want. And if you're a girl and eat up the whole like who did this to you shadow daddy, then Xaden is your guy. But yeah, so that's kind of what Fourth Wing is in a nutshell. So Iron Flame, I didn't enjoy it as much on the reread, but I still like the series. Like, I'm never not going to like the series. And then Onyx Storm, I had mixed feelings about Onyx Storm. I gave it a 4. If you watch my review, I go into it in more detail, but I gave it a 4. I booked the day off work. Me and my sister went and read in the coffee shop, so the whole vibe of reading it was kind of the 4-star for me. I like the characters, I like the world, I just really enjoy like being in that world. However, I just think in places some of the plot felt random. I think I wanted more from certain elements of the plot, but again, I'm not going to give you a 5-minute rundown on it when I've got another video you can check out. So yeah, the next lot of books I read were the Fourth Wing series, and then I decided to jump into Magnolia Park. So there's 5 books out at the moment. I think there's a 6th book coming out soon, and if you don't know, Magnolia Parks is almost like It's Made in Chelsea meets Gossip Girl, but as a book. And then each book kind of alternates between who the main character is. So book 1, 3 and 5 is Magnolia Parks, and it focuses on her relationship with her like kind of love interest, which he's called BJ. And then books 2, 4 and then when 6 comes out focuses on Daisy Hates and her love interest and her world. And I am just really into romance books at the moment. I can't seem to get enough. I don't know what has happened to me, not that there's anything wrong with romance books, but I am a stan fantasy girl. Like, I love fantasy, but at the moment I just can't get enough of them. I like fantasy because sometimes I feel like romance is a bit cringe, but a lot of the books I've read this year are romance so far, so maybe this is 2025 is my romance book era. We shall see. We'll check back in a few months' time. But yeah, so I binge read the Magnolia Park series. Well, books 1, 2 and 4 were my favourites so far. So the first 2 Magnolia and then the first Daisy Hates books. I just really enjoyed them. Like, I don't know why I kind of found them sad at times. Like, it's kind of like unrequited love, and like it's just basically about relationships and like everyday real life kind of world. So like, I guess if you've had like relationship problems or been through like a bad breakup or been through like a bad relationship before, then like you could probably relate to some of the things in the books that are kind of painful to read. But I guess I'm also in my painful book era, so I'm just kind of enjoying reading books that literally like rip my soul out of my body. So yeah, I would recommend the Magnolia Park series if you just want something, I wouldn't say light-hearted, but I would say easy to get through. Like, you just eat it up and eat it up and eat it up, because it is so relatable. Obviously the characters aren't, Magnolia's not the most relatable because she's like rich. She's really into fashion, which I'm definitely not, and she's like a little bit highly strung, but the characters in it are really good. We love BJ, we love Christian, and we love Julian. What I wouldn't give to have a whole book from Julian's point of view. I think I would sell my soul to Jess Hastings to write a Julian's book, but apparently she's never going to. So I think between that series I gave like between maybe 3 stars to 5 stars. The last Magnolia book, I just think it was quite a big book, and I was like, maybe I'd binge read enough of that series at that point, so I think the last book got 3. And then I fancied being a bit nostalgic and revisiting some books from my teenage years. So I read the first book in The Mortal Instrument, so I read City of Bones, and then I did go on to read City of Ash. And I don't know if you've read it or not, but I'm going to give a spoiler here because how can I not say this? So close your ears if you haven't read City of Bones yet. How Cassandra Clare got away with writing that series, us thinking that Clary and Jace were brother and sister for 3 of the books, and still wanting them to be together. Like, it might just be me, but even when they were brother and sister, I was like, they've got to be together, they've got to be together. And that is just a level of weird I feel like no one's ever really talked about. So at the end of the series, like, we do learn that they're not actually brother and sister, and then they can be together. But for those few books when you're uncertain, you feel kind of weird wanting them to be together, but it is what it is. So the Mortal Instruments, if you don't know, are basically about shadow hunters who are like descendants from angels, and then they have to like fight, they live within the real world, and then they fight the demons that like slip through the pockets of the universe, and bad guys. There's vampires, there's demons, there's warlocks. It's really good. I think reading it now, maybe I feel a little bit old, especially because I read it when I was like maybe 14. But yeah, that was such a nostalgic read for me. And then I read City of Ashes 2, which is book 2. I kind of remember the events in different orders, so it was kind of refreshing to see actually so I know how it ends, but like what events happen in what book. I think I will try and read the rest of the series at some point throughout the year, but that nostalgic yearning had been ticked off for me with those 2 books, so I haven't continued reading the series yet, but I think I will. I'll just spread it out throughout the year. So after City of Bones and City of Ashes, I then went on to read Light Lark. So that was again a reread for me because I ate up Light Lark and Nightbane last year, and then Sky Shade, is that what it's called? Yeah, the 3rd book in that series came out towards the end of last year, but I never got around to reading it, so I was like, right, I'm going to read Light Lark because I enjoyed it so much. I'm going to read Nightbane because I enjoyed it so much, and then I'm going to get onto Sky Shade because I'm still thinking about it. However, I read Light Lark and I enjoyed it, but I don't know, maybe I felt like I'd read too many books. I needed a break and I wasn't being kind to myself, and I was just telling myself to read. Whereas, as I said at the start of the video, reading is good, but it's not everything. So I should have listened to myself maybe and had a break from reading, but I persevered and read Light Lark, and then I started reading Nightbane and I was halfway through and I was like, I just couldn't get into it. And I know it's not the book because I loved that book last year. I read it in a day, but I think with Nightbane this year it was the case of right book, wrong time. So I paused reading Nightbane, I went on to read another book, read half of this other book, and again wasn't enjoying it, didn't get into it, and I was at this point I was like, I need a break from reading. So I had a bit of, I wouldn't say loads of time off, I just didn't put pressure on myself. So I think I was watching some Gossip Girl, been watching Lord of the Rings with my sister and her boyfriend, rewatching because I've watched it so many times already, because I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan. I've got 2 Lord of the Rings tattoos. I've got the Rings of Power Elvish quote and then the number 9 in Elvish, so I've just been like enjoying watching those and kind of like fangirling over Aragorn. But maybe I just need a bit of a trashy romance to like get me back into the mood for reading. So I read Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh. If you don't know what this book is, it's book 5 in the Boys of Tommen series. Each kind of book or 2 books focuses on one couple. So the first 2 books are called Binding 13 and that focuses on Shannon and Johnny. The second 2 books is Saving 6 and Redeeming 6, and that focuses on Joey and Aoife. Those 2 books, Saving 6, will live rent-free in my head forever. I read them over Christmas. I'm going on a detour now. I read them over Christmas and they absolutely ruined me. Yeah, and then Taming 7 focuses on Chloe and Gibbsy, and yeah, it was, I think, just what I needed. It was, again, it's not light-hearted because like characters go through things, but it was just kind of like an everyday book. I didn't have to think about it. There was no world building. I already knew the characters. So it was just kind of what I needed to like have a fresh outlook on reading again. Although I will say I hate myself a little bit. I read Taming 7. I read the whole, I think there were like 600 pages. I read the whole 500 pages thinking that Gibbsy's real name was Gerald. I'd obviously just not paid attention to it, and then I got to like page 500 and realised that his name was Gerard. So I had been reading his name wrong for the entire book. Don't you just hate that? I hate myself. So yeah, I read Taming 7, got me back into it. I was staying up late to read, kind of easy to get through. I also would love an Irish husband, so if anyone from Ireland is watching this video, please get in contact with me because I would love an Irish boyfriend. Reading Boys of Tommen is my way into it. My surname is Keeley, so I have Irish family. 3 of my 4 grandparents are Irish, so this is my CV for all you Irish men out there. Please come my way, so I can pretend that I'm in the Boys of Tommen as well. So yeah, those are the 13 books that I've read so far this year, and now I'm reading Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, because my friend recommended it to me. He said it was really good, so I was like, let's try something more straight fantasy, less of the romancy, and you know what, I'm actually really enjoying it. I've got about 100 pages left, and I will say it was a bit slow to begin with. I'll give a full review once I've finished it. It was a bit slow to begin with. That took at least 100 pages to get into it, but now the plot's picking up a little bit. I'm kind of like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm also kind of buddy reading it with one of my bookstagram friends, so he's reading that at the same time as me as well, so it's nice to have someone to discuss it with. I think going into it, I thought it would be more of a whimsical fantasy, but it's kind of giving, like, so my review for it so far is like Six of Crows meets The Bone Season meets Poison Study. So if you don't know what any of those books, go and research them. All great books, except for The Bone Season. I read it a while ago and kind of forced myself to read the whole series, but I think it's just because at the time I hadn't read anything like it, but I'm more of a diverse reader now. So I'm on Mistborn. I'm hoping to finish it soon. I don't know if I'll read the second Mistborn next or if I'll like have a bit of a little romance first, because sometimes I do think fantasy books can feel quite intense to read, especially when they're like over 600 pages. So yeah, I'm on Mistborn now. We'll see what I'm going to read next. For me, it's going to be a romance, but then I'll definitely go on to book 2 of Mistborn. Mistborn is kind of like 2 sets of trilogy, so there's the first 3 books and then I think there's another 3 books afterwards, but the story finishes after the first 3, so I don't know what the second trilogy will entail, but I'm definitely going to read the first 3 books and then we'll see if I ever read the next 3. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about the books I've read so far this year. These are my books for 2025. I would recommend all of them for any fantasy, romance, romantasy reader out there. I don't know, let me know in the comments your favourite book of the year. If you can't pick one, pick 2. I know it's hard to say, but you know, sometimes we've got to challenge ourselves and be really selective. And then yeah, I'll see you in my next video.